And the agent tells me, she goes, listen, I know you got a pretty good deal. You guys got here first. It was on the MLS. She got multiple offers afterwards. She said, listen, just so you understand what's happening here, she said, there's not a lot of inventory. One of my friends was 2 of my comps, like my ARV comps. And he'd fix them all the way up. And when she told me, she said, yeah, he's not doing it right. I'm like, wow, it looks great. She said, no, look around for other houses over here. She said, he could have bought those, painted them, put them right back on, and made probably the same amount of money because he spent, I think, $150,000 or something on his. And that's information I can't tell because she just understood. I could see that there's a shortage of inventory, but here's what I didn't, right? She said, well, all of our buyers, like, it's like 60% of their buyers right now, which she considered all of their buyers, were like Snapchat. So you guys know what happened to Snapchat, right? So Snapchat went public, right? So all their employees are now like millionaires. And they're all spending money on the houses that are close enough to there that they want to buy. And so they're buying all this stuff. So she said, just put it back up. She goes, you might not get your million, 1 million 2. She goes, but you'll get 950. We paid 780. So our profit is almost identical if we just throw it back up. I think we're going to probably end up at like 980. I think it went up today. But she's the one who told us. She goes, no, just sit on it. Like, don't do that. Just see what happens. It's a free roll for you. And here's the other thing. For you investors, it's a complete free roll for you to do this, right? In between when your contractor is going to start and when you close, throw it up on Zillow as a coming soon or what have you. And what do you get from there? You're going to get a bunch of buyer leads. And what do agents pay for that Zillow survives on? Mostly buyer leads, right? So here's something that you could trade soft dollars with people, right? So now all of a sudden you're trying to build relationships with these agents and sit there and say, hey, listen, in your area, I'm going to also provide you with some buyer leads or some seller leads, because when you offer them, just for the sake of shits and giggles, let's say $400,000 for a house that's worth $600,000, and they say no, and they say, I'll take $520, that's a home run deal for a homeowner. That is a crappy deal for an investor, right? Because of the spreads that we need. And so all of a sudden, what does that mean? The people that tell the investors, if we're marketing directly to homeowners, that tell us no, that is a listing for agents. They are spending dollars, door knocking, sweat, tears trying to get that, and then competing with other agents trying to do that. It's that same thing. And when they do that, now when they find a deal that isn't going to qualify for financing, that's going to have to go to a cash person, who do you think they're going to call first? Probably the person who's working with them in that win-win capacity. Those are a couple of examples that I think that work really well and have worked really well for me. I love networking. I kind of love people.
You're looking for problem properties as well, foundation problems, something obviously we can still discount the property quite a bit, and that would still qualify for what you're looking for.
Yeah, for me, it is strictly a numbers game for me. I don't like new construction or add-ons per se. I've got an add-on going on now, and I say that, but and the reason is this: is that anything that delays the timeline, you've got this time value of money, right? And your time is very valuable, and the interest you want to earn or the return you want to earn on your money is also very valuable. And if the more you guard that, the more you can end up making at the end of the year. And that doesn't mean you're cheap or you're doing all this stuff. What that means is that you're looking for transactions that are shorter term, right? So if I can get in and out of a transaction in 30 or 45 days, because maybe so we call this play the Bonnie Bray, because the first house we did it to was on a street called Bonnie Bray. But what we did is, I looked at this house. My own contractor went through, and he first saw this, and it was he's like, yeah, this is probably close to $300,000 to fix that because it's pretty bad. And I said, okay, we can't spend that, right? That's just that. I'm sorry, you know what? That was the one. $180,000. And he said it was an old Victorian house with there was multifamily in the back, and he'd say, well, you've got to redo the siding, you've got to redo this stuff, at least in this part of the house. It's wood windows because it's in HPOZ in LA, which means you can't just do what you want, you have to get approval for. And And I said, all right, well, do me a favor. Just go through and just paint everything white and paint the outside white. And the roof was in really bad condition. It looked, you could see a green layer, a red layer, a black layer. And, you're allowed, I think, 2 layers now. And is it still 3? I thought they changed it to 2. Is it 3? Yeah, it used to be 3. I thought they changed it to, I thought they dropped it to 2 now. But it looks like it's 3. You could easily see like 3 or 4 colors already, right? And so you knew you were going to have to take it off and redo it. And this was a 3,200 square foot place or something like that. So I said, all right, well, just paint the roof black. He's like, you want me to paint the roof black? And I said, yeah. I said, we're going to sell it as a fixer. He's like, well, it's going to be this much. I said, no. I said, why are we spending it? He goes, well, there's all these holes we got to put. I said, no. I said, I'm not telling you to patch a hole. He's like, you want me to paint over a hole? And I said, yeah, I want you to get the stink out of it because the house stunk. It smelled really bad. And what's paint going to do? It's going to smell like new paint, right? I'm not trying to hide the fact that it's a fixer. I want people to know it's a fixer, but I want them to have a clean palette so that when they go through, they're not worried about being just creeped out. They're envisioning what they're going to do to the house, right? And for me, that was the difference from a $180,000 bid, and it works. By the way, for investors, it works fantastic because when you have these houses that are like hoarder owned, that really smell really bad, have the painter just go through and spray it, and I guarantee you're going to shave off 30% off your bid. And because my own contractor, this is my in-house contractor, that we own the company, and he was the bid guy. He went out there, it was 180. When he came back, and I said, hey, listen, so if we wanted to just finish it up, change out this, kind of clean up the electrical, make sure the plumbing was all working, swap out the windows, how much would you think that would cost? Want to guess what his number was?
40.
50.
A little higher, but
80.
No, 60. I'm like, you just gave me a bid for $180,000. Why is it $60,000 now? I said, it's the same house. All we did, and he goes, I'm like, you know what we spent on this house. We spent $3,800 or something like that, painting inside, outside, and everything else. And he's like, I don't know, it just doesn't look as bad now. And that's the truth. And it did not look as bad. It didn't smell. They did sweep up the rat turds and all that stuff. They did paint it, but he painted countertops, faucets. Imagine like somebody let like the sprayer go. No, they sprayed past the windows. I'm like, just scrape it off. Scrape it off. I said, now let's see the thing. And we ended up selling it like that to a cash guy who was going to fix it and keep it. But I guarantee that our offers would have came in significantly lower had it still smelled as bad. And so this one in Culver City that we just put up, that's all we're doing. We're just spraying. It didn't really smell. We just wanted to get rid of the lime green carpet that I had. And we just left that. So it's got rough floors now. They were hardwood in half the house. The other part was plywood. We're trying to hide anything. But now it's just painted white. That house, we didn't even paint the outside. And it's a blank canvas.
You just painted white on the inside.
We just painted white. It's just a blank. I mean, that's a trendy color right now over there anyway. But my point is that there's opportunities like this that as agents, you're going to know in your neighborhoods, and you're going to be able to say to the investor, hey, listen, I know that this seems like a very tight deal, but I have a buyer lined up already for it. And for the investors that are in the room, if you know that somebody's ready to go on that house, you don't need a balance. You don't need the large margin that you normally would have. Now, am I advocating going out and saying, hey, tell the investors you got a deal? No, I'm saying that you've got this win-win relationship, and you're trying to create opportunities for yourself as well as for that investor to make some money. And that's the win-win right there. So as long as you've always kept that in mind, then now you can create more opportunities. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about just injecting yourself in opportunities, because I think that's what a lot of people miss out on. And part of it is experience. I've had the benefit of being in part of 10 or 12,000 flips already, that I've gotten to see so many different scenarios, both good and bad, that I get calls for, hey, what would you do here? Or what's this? I'm like, well, I say, I'm not an attorney, but, here's what my experience has been. And with that experience comes the ability to spot more opportunities. So I spoke in El Segundo, I think it was, a few weeks ago, and there's a few wholesalers that were there, and they've been door knocking, sending out mailers, and not 50 like when I first started. They were sending out, thousands already at this point. One of them had been doing it for 9 months. The other one had been doing it within 11 months. The 11-month person had gotten one deal.
Wow.
The person for 9 months had not closed a deal yet. Okay. So I said, well, tell me about your transactions. And this is investors, why you want to network with the wholesalers, the agents, and everyone else. So she read me, and her buyer is someone I know, right? And she gets pretty good deals. I didn't realize quite how good she was getting. They're trying to get them, but she starts very, very low. So the problem with that is that there's most businesses that are successful, they have a column in their like P&L for losses, right? And they account and they budget for losses. And because if you budget for losses, then your availability to see spot more opportunity usually increases. If you're not looking to say, hey, every single deal has to be this home run deal, right? I've got to make this much money for each one. And I think David talked a little bit about, hey, just try to make some money. And at the end of the month, it's 20, 30, 40,000, whatever it is. Fantastic. You're not trying to find that one deal that you make $100,000. And those are out there for sure. But the reality is, it's like you guys have all heard of baseball, right? So, baseball players, it's the same thing. You look at the guys who are the pros that make the most money, that have a 300, 350 batting average. You know what that means? It means they're successful 30% of the time. Because one is 100%. So 300 batting, 0.3, that's a failure rate amongst everything else, right?
Yeah.
And yet, for baseball, that's a $10 million contract or more. And, it's the same thing for real estate. If you're sitting there and if you're sitting there trying to get on base and you're trying to get on base every single time, fantastic. If you're trying to hit a home run every single time, you're going to miss out on all those singles, doubles, triples. And guess what? Just like in baseball, the guys that get on singles, doubles, triples more often than the guys who are just the home run hitter who have no other talent are usually the players that are the franchise players that make the most money. And it's the same thing in real estate. You need to be the franchise player for your company that makes the most money. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because that's the goal, right?
Phone number, email?
I'll give that out at the end. You might change your mind.
He hasn't finished it.
Yeah, I'm not done. All right, so here's what I think I'd like to do. Just because this is a great room size for like question and answers. If you guys have questions, just raise your hand, because really what I want to do is answer the questions that you have, because we can talk about a lot of stuff that might not be relevant to you, and then I'm wasting your time. Right?
So will you do contractor bids? So let's say the bank comes in and says, hey, it's worth 700, but it's really only worth 6 or whatever. Will you do contractor bids to help us negotiate the deal down? Or?
Yeah. So this is a great win-win example here, right? So with investors, when I'm marketing to agents, I said, listen, let me just be your first offer, right? I'm like David's first offer for some of the stuff, and I know I'm low, but he doesn't care because he just wants the first number from the bank, right? Mm-hmm. And once he has that number, if it's not me, he can inject somebody else in there. And so that's okay. And so I'm trying to be like an arm to all of the agents as much as I can. You need a contractor bid? Fantastic. If we can do that, right? I mean, if it's one that I'd like to buy, fantastic. If it's one that I have zero interest in, I don't want to waste our guys' time, or if I know we've got no shot because, hey, really it needs $5,000 in work and it should go to a retail cash buyer versus one that needs a lot more work, they're not going to give us the discount that we need. And for me, again, going back to win-win, I have a win-win relationship with my contractor. I do a few things, and investors, I'll give you this tip here. I have, let's see, one of my contractors I've had a relationship with, 21 years now. And, most people, you can't have a relationship that long unless they're making money too. And as investors, what we're trying to do is kind of cut our costs. So those are guys that you always bang heads with. And I've banged my head against the wall with this guy a lot. But at the end of the day, when I make money, I give them bonuses. I, send guys, like food to the job sites. I do other things to kind of offset the fact that I might be a stickler for certain things. And if you do business with me, I'll tell you, if we flip a house together, I spent a lot of time detailing out what